What's up, guys? Welcome back. I've got a customer build here, local guy from Motor City Airsoft, Andrew. This is the assembly. If you saw the disassembly, I'm about to put this thing back together, and I'm going to see if I can do this thing pretty quick here. So first things first, I'm going to start with the upper. Take my upper, my rear sight. I'm going to slide my rear sight on this way. I'm going to tighten it down, flathead screwdriver. I'm going to take my blowback unit, of course, add some Heavy's Love Sauce. Take my nozzle, hold them upside down like this, should tip right in. Nozzle return spring, coiled end goes toward the back, just like that, should set in there. Take my slide, I'm going to drop it down right on top of there. Be careful not to move your nozzle forward at all. And of course we've got the AIP hammer protection pad going in next. Now I'm not using Loctite right now because I want to get this thing together, make sure everything's functioning properly the way that I want it to, and then if I have to do any tweaks or anything like that, I can go back and not have to worry about Loctite. That is kind of something that you will learn through experience. Always build first, then Loctite. Just going to put that barrel on my hop-up unit, pretty simple. Stock guide rod, included guide plug, 120% AIP, of course. Then I've got two Waldo Customs, the smaller black buffers. Those might get changed out. I've been doing some testing with these, and the first test failed, so I'll let you guys know more about that. Alright, that's it for my upper. I'll come back and I'll ask him if he wants that stock front sight in there. I always ask my customers, do they want that sight or do they want a different sight, fiber optic? Everybody has their own preference. So next, onto the frame. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our chassis plate here. And we need our reset spring and our reset. This is a little tricky. I'm going to set the spring in here. And then that little notch on there, that little rounded notch on there, that's the rounded part for the spring. You want to very carefully, don't kill that spring because it's so easy to kill that spring. He'll lock in place just like that. Take your chassis plate. That little post right here goes toward the bottom. There's a hole right there. You see that hole? Goes in there. And that little tab or that little slot, that's for your reset. Just make sure you reset, check your function. And now we're going to go ahead and throw that screw in there. Little teeny Phillips head screw. If you have one of those cool mats with like the little sections, you know, put all the little parts for each, you know, sub-assembly, as you could call it. These are called sub-assemblies, where we're putting little parts together to make bigger parts. And all the bigger parts go together to make the completed build. This will need Loctite, so I'm going to have to go back, like I say, once I make sure this thing is working properly and functioning properly. Then I'm going to go back and Loctite all these screws. Next we need this little spring. This is your valve knocker spring. And it goes this guy up on that little post. And then you can see the little tab that he locks into right there on that little arm will lock on that tab. And now you can take that valve knocker and push him forward. You might have to push your reset down, but he goes right through that little slot right there. And then he should lock in place. Now if your spring falls off of here, my spring popped off, you can just kind of back him out of here, get it back on top of that little bend of that spring. This is the tricky part, trust me. Just make sure you get him back in. Okay, so I'm going to do it the other way. If you have a problem like this, do it the other way. Take this end of the spring, feed it into the slot, put it over the post right here so that it's actually in the valve knocker. Now you can bend this tab over that little post there. Hold that down though, hold it like that. Just like that. Now you want to check our function. We should be able to push that forward. Our reset pops up. We push our reset down. He comes back. That's perfect. Okay, next up for the frame, we go disconnector, sear, hammer. Nope, my sear fell out. Okay. The sear should sit in the little hole. Let me flip over real quick. There's a little hole right there. That's the post where the sear sits in there. So if you're trying to figure it out and trying to wiggle them in there, use a little tool or something. Okay, make sure our hammer's kind of back a little bit when we put this plate on. It should be everything in there, yep. Alright, we slide the plate on. Check, make sure there's no gap. Good to go. Take our frame screw, looks like that. Phillips head goes right in that hole. And we just tighten him down. This will also get Loctite on the final assembly. Okay. Frame is done for now. Now we go on to the grip. First thing, trigger. Slides in. Next thing, mag release. Okay, next up I'm going to go ahead and do my hammer housing real quick. Stock spring, hammer strut plunger, and then the little pin goes in the side here. Retaining pin, take a little tool punch, shove it in there, push that pin down, that should catch, and you're good to go there. Right, now we're going to install grip onto the frame. Our grip screws. These will also get Loctited. Should Loctite all your screws, right, just in case. And use blue Loctite. If you use red Loctite and then you have like a failure, things will snap or break instead of loosening up with the blue Loctite. Alright, now I'm going to take my leaf spring. There's a little T cut out in the back. You can see that little right angle bend on that. That right angle bend goes right in that little flat spot on the back. And you should also, once you get it in there, see it on the back of the disconnector and the sear. Now I want you to take your hammer strut, push it down like that. Take your beaver tail. There's a slot right in the middle of your beaver tail. And that's where your hammer strut aligns, is right in that slot in that beaver tail. So take him, set him in there, line up the hammer strut so he's in the middle. And then I normally take my hammer housing. Might have to wiggle it to get it in the. Might have to wiggle it a little bit to get that strut to go down into the housing hole. Take your pen, just kind of put it in there for now. We're going to go ahead and check our hammer. We've got function. Okay, now we need our safeties. Make sure your hammer's back. Take the little plunger, goes in first. Then the spring goes in second. Then the longer pin or plunger goes in last. One of these, this side safety won't go in unless that hammer's back. So I always take my right side safety, put that in. There's a little slot right here that this has to lock into. That's why you always put this one in first, because you can't get this one out until you pop this up all the way. So keep him up above the rail. Take your left side safety, line him up, and he's going to be stuck right here. You're going to notice, okay, I can't move him. You need to slide this pin, that plunger pin, all the way down. Take a little thin tool, and then close these together at the same time as I push in, and then I'm going to push these together with this finger. Now I always put this finger over the back just in case something happens and that pin ends up wanting to shoot out. And then when I take it off, I always point it at the mat so it will hit the mat instead of flying off somewhere else. So go ahead and take that. Should be able to push that in. See how easily that click together? If you push those down, you're done. Go ahead and do a quick operation test. Seems like we're good. Last thing, grip screw. It's going to go in there. Okay, ready for the slide. Well, of course, we're going to need a little bit of love sauce. Put a little bit of love sauce on the rails for now, for testing. And of course, I will go back and lubricate all the parts as needed. Alright, see how we did. Nozzle's got a decent seal. You could definitely use upgraded bucking, make that better. Slides right over the hammer beautifully. No obstruction at all. Alright, chamber's clear. I've got my adapter right here. Adapter's clear. Do a couple shots. See how it is. Alright, good to go, guys, for me. So I will tear it back down, do all the necessary maintenance, Loctite, all that kind of stuff, And this one's ready to go for Andrew. Alright guys, thanks for watching. As always, play with honor, rock on. Please subscribe. Thanks guys, I'd appreciate it. Rock on.